Start with introductions. Hey guys, welcome to the Meshery development call. As a ritual, we'll get acquainted with our newcomers first. So anyone who's on this call for the first time, could you please go ahead and introduce yourself, or I'll start taking names in a second.
You are putting fingers on my face. Well, it's Aladdin. It's my second meeting. It's my first development meeting. That's it. I'm a network and system engineer, and I find the topics here in this meeting interesting for me. I can see here maths and some measure extensions. I guess this will be the best meeting for me in the next coming months. You will see me here a lot.
That's great. Welcome to the community.
Thank you.
We would love to see.
So moving on, Tapan Halani, guessing this is your first call.
Hi everyone. Am I audible properly?
Yep.
Okay. Hi. Hi everyone. And my second call. I started from the last week itself. I am a freelance DevOps and cloud infrastructure engineer. So yeah, I work with Kubernetes like throughout the day. So like you're right, Mr. Lee. I know Flux AD. So I would be happy to assist in anything with Flux AD or cloud native infrastructure. I'll be honest, I am not very proficient with programming itself, but I know software development and I know cloud native. So always open to learn, and let's see. Hopefully, I'll be a good contributor here.
Awesome. Welcome to the community. And anybody else who would like to go? Am I missing someone? Okay, I guess not. So we'll get started off with our agenda items then. First up, we have Abhi and Ashish.
Oh, a quick note, if I could, just to insert. One is, Debopriya may not be on. I will hunt her down. She has. Oh, is she not available?
She's on the call.
Oh, she is. Okay. I think this is the second time I've done that. I will hunt her down anyway. So anyway, there's a few community events and blog posts and things that you all are doing. Some of you are on the call and some of you aren't. Anyway, there's a number of those things that are worth mentioning. So she'll probably highlight them. As a matter of fact, actually, with someone this morning, Meshmate this morning told me that they're going to be speaking at a Bangalore event, or an event in Bangalore about Meshery, the Docker extension, actually, specifically. And then actually here in Austin, where I'm based, there's another Meshmate, Shivay Lamba, who is, he's visiting in Austin, speaking at the open source summit, and he's talking about Meshmates in this case, which is great. So, so we do what we can to elevate those efforts and promote, promote those things. So I want to make sure that we highlight them here. The real reason why I interrupted was just actually to comment on what Tapan had said, which is just to make a quick note that we talk a lot about, like particularly on this call, we talk a lot about, often we talk about coding. Sometimes we just like argue and people prove me wrong about various features and functions and system behaviors. And so we do design spec reviews. Sometimes we do planning for the next release. There's a lot that goes on in this call. And one of the things I wanted to highlight was that like some of the most important contributions that people make in the community are not code. Specifically, they are not code. And so it might seem like that's the core focus, and that's the only thing that means anything. And it's like, couldn't be further from the truth. There are many, many people here. Actually, there's a guy who'd been joining here for a year and a half, very consistently, never said one word on the calls, never. I'd had discussions with him in conversations separately, and he was just here just to learn, just to absorb. Like, and that's actually very welcomed. It's like great to just see another person on the call, have them encourage others to join. Anyway, there's a ton of things. I was talking to Aladdin a little bit about, by the way, Aladdin, when you enunciate Aladdin though, is just, or it is Aladdin, right? You don't just go by Allah. Just before I mess it up.
It's Aladdin. It's Aladdin.
Oh, okay, good. We were talking about his ability to, or some of his network engineering and systems engineering skills, and how critical those are for using some of the projects and tripping over them, either finding issues that they don't, not intentionally necessarily finding issues, but just through the use of them, finding an issue, helping the others that are contributing here understand that what should happen. There's a lot of folks that come to the community to write in a particular programming language, but aren't necessarily familiar with the domain space of cloud native. And like, there's a lot of that tech here between Docker and Kubernetes and cloud events and Grafana and Prometheus. And like there's a massive list of things that a management plane like Meshery interacts with. And the overwhelming majority of those that are here contributing code aren't necessarily familiar with those things. So actually for those that are here bringing that type of a focus, it's extremely helpful. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to Pranav Singh, who's on the call, who's been making waves in the code. One of the challenges that he's trying to help out with is a permissions issue in the CNCF lab. We're running Meshery. We run in the CNCF lab, it's actually an Equinix data center. We're running performance tests across all the different types of service meshes. A Googler just reached out to me last week asking to participate in this. Anyway, the challenge in that effort right now is just, it's a permissions issue for Meshery to be able to reach out, grab the kube config that's on the bare metal machine, that automation of provisioning has been done for. It's like that type of automation, that type of a DevOps centric, sysadmin centric knowledge is critically missing and is blocking. I was just presenting to the CNCF TOC yesterday on on some of these initiatives, actually on that very initiative. It's about service mesh performance and the public facing dashboard that this community has produced. And the holdup for me being able to show them a really great looking performance dashboard is this permissions issue. It's like, there's a lot of those kinds of things. And so, good, I just wanted to take a moment to let everybody know, whether you're writing a blog post, speaking somewhere, telling somebody else, just using the thing, complaining about it, answering questions, like showing up and not saying anything, like it all counts. So, okay, that was my 5 minutes of the call. I think I'm done. I'm tapped out.
Oh, okay, I was speaking on mute. All right, so let's get started off with the agenda items now then. So Lee briefly spoke about Shivay giving a talk about Meshmates in Austin. So that's it about this topic, right? Or would I think Adithya Krishna is on the call. So if any of you would like to talk a little bit more about this. Okay, I'm guessing not. Lee, could you give us some more context maybe?
But yeah, I'm not sure that he is. I don't know if he is on the call or not, but there's I think it's a Docker meetup, Docker Bangalore meetup, maybe. Oh yeah.
No, this is about the talk that Shivay is giving on Meshmate.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's a non-technical talk. If you've been in the community for any amount of time, you're probably familiar with kind of the Meshmates program, and it's some of the way in which the community is treated here is novel compared to other communities, and there's a lot of effort that goes into that. And so Shivay lives in India. He's but was sponsored to come out and talk about Meshmates, that program, how it works, and what its purpose is. And so, yeah, so there's tons of opportunities to speak or to be on podcasts if that's your thing. As a matter of fact, that's your thing, just say so in Slack, so we can get your name on the list of people who might pick up opportunities.
Okay, thanks, Lee. Moving on, we have Abhi and Ashish with the multi-context support updates. Would you guys go ahead and share your screens?
Hello everyone. So this would be a quick demo of about what me and Abhi were working on for the last week, and this is about a new feature that is being introduced now, and that feature is managing multiple clusters with Meshery. So basically, this context switcher has been added here, and this has two primary purposes. One of which is to allow you to perform operations across any number of your clusters at once, uniformly and parallelly, so that if you have some kind of bootstrapping to do, like you have 9 of your clusters and all of those start with the same configuration, you don't have to, do it one by one. Just you have to select any number. So you can imagine that as you select these clusters, and any number of clusters that you select, operation would be applied. So that's one. The other primary purpose is that we have a bunch of ways to get an idea about what is going on in your cluster, one of which is, as you can see on the dashboard, so it displays what service meshes you have installed here. So this is pretty basic stuff, and if you will dig in a little deeper, you'll find Meshmate visualizer, which actually gives you a much more fine-grained view from pod to services, to which I'll go over in a minute inside the demo. So there as well, when you will you can use the same context switcher, and the number of the cluster that you would tick, that would be the cluster from where you would be seeing the data. So now that we have got the purpose out of the way, let me first demo the first primary purpose, and then we'll jump onto the second. So right now I have my Istio and Linkerd adapter running, and for deploying any service mesh or performing any service mesh specific operations, we have adapters for each of the service meshes. We have 7, 8, 9 adapters. I have lost count at this point. So, and we have these chips that you can click to make sure that basically your cluster is reachable. One more small thing that was added was if Meshery, basically whenever you start Meshery and whenever Meshery starts to manage your clusters, it deploys an operator, Meshery operator, across all the clusters by default. And if one of your cluster does not have the Meshery operator, these chips would turn a little gray. And as I can see, there is no grayness going over here. So I can be pretty sure that I have my operator deployed across all my Minikube 1 and Minikube 2. I just have 2 clusters running because I wanted to have mercy on my system. It does not have that much RAM to support 5 or 10 clusters. So and yeah, I could have demoed with EKS and all, but let's just go with Minikube for now. So yeah, so I have my Istio adapter running, my Linkerd adapter running. I can connect to 2 of my clusters. So let's start. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select only my Minikube cluster, and I'll be deploying an Istio service mesh. This is something that I did last week as well, but there would be minor change as we have improved graphical subscription. So we will also be seeing the data, the second part or the second primary purpose that I talked about. So when I've selected Minikube, Minikube is pingable. Okay, so now if I come to my life cycle, so this needs a little improvement. So if I just click on life cycle, it just shows me this, maybe some improvement over here. Okay, so if I go to my Istio dashboard, so from here I can select my namespace. Let's say I want to deploy Istio service mesh in my Istio system namespace in my Minikube cluster. Right now, when I'll click when I'll click on this button, there would be no modal, although Uzair was working on something, and by this week we'll have a modal. So you would get a confirmation model to basically convey the information that these are the number of clusters on which you are performing this operation, and some extra relevant information. Okay, so Okay, so this should install, and if I go back, okay, so I see my Istio in my Istio system namespace. My Istio pod is being deployed, and if I switch my cluster back to Minikube 2, I wouldn't see anything because there is nothing deployed there. I just deployed something on my Minikube cluster. There is one little caveat to point out for the people with keen eyes is that right now the log says that the not the log the text that you see here says no service mesh is detected in Minikube 2, Minikube clusters. So it should only, it basically by default, comma separated names of all the cluster. It shouldn't take the name of all the clusters over whichever the selected clusters are. It should only, so for example, right now the selected cluster is Minikube 2. So it should only say that no service mesh is detected in Minikube 2 cluster. Okay, a little bit of nitpick. Moving on. So I can also ping my Linkerd adapter. And if I go to my Linkerd page, I can select my Linkerd system namespace. I can select my Minikube. Okay, so my Minikube 2 cluster is already selected. Now, if I click on plus, wait 3 seconds maybe. I come back to the page, wait 3 seconds. It sometimes it takes a little while to deploy. Okay, yeah. So I can see, so by default, if I have select all, so when I reloaded the page, as you could see, so when you reload the page, the select all gets selected. So by default, the view is all the clusters, not some of them, not one of them. And now you're seeing, because I've selected all, you are seeing data from both the clusters. Now again, that was the second primary purpose. If you switch back and forth, like you would be seeing data from different clusters here. Okay, so that was the first purpose. That was the second purpose. The next part of this demo is to go over to Meshmap, and before deploying a book info app in one of these clusters, let me go back to the visualizer and toggle the view there. These are some issues that I think Abhi has solved it. I don't have the latest pull of the UI, so that's why I was getting these little snack bars over here. So just to remove the clutter, I'll select only pod. So right now I click on select all, and I'm seeing my Istio here over here and Linkerd over here. Some pods from Istio, some pods from Linkerd. And if I deselect Minikube 2, I would be only seeing my Istio pods. If I deselect Minikube, and if I select only Minikube 2, I would be seeing stuff from Linkerd 2. So pretty basic stuff. You can use the same exact context switcher in your visualizer to toggle between the views of your cluster. So by default, if you select all, you get the entire view, all the clusters. Although it's pretty deceptive too, because there is a view selector button over here which says single cluster, and which basically means that you're only seeing one cluster, but it kind of is there because, for conventional not for conventional reasons. It was here before the multi-context things came in, so it still says single cluster, but as you can see, I'm seeing data from multiple clusters. So yeah, this would need a little bit change, but again, a small nitpick. So yeah, now let me go back to the designer, and I have a sample app here just to deploy for fun. So we have a designer mode as well. So in visualizer mode, you can visualize stuff. In your designer mode, you can design stuff. So I have this is my Istio gateway. This is my virtual service. This is my Kubernetes service, and some of my Meshery applications. So basically, a lot of times you have an application that is just a amalgamation of your deployment and a service. And for the reason that you don't have to separately design deployment and service, we give out this application component out of the box. So yeah, so we have few applications over here, service and so this is in the book info app that you would find on Istio's documentation. So let me select. So let's say that I want to deploy it in only one of my clusters because I don't want my system to hang. So I've selected Minikube 2, and if I click on deploy, and I hope that there are no errors. Okay, yeah, deployed book. So my design is successfully deployed. I go back to my visualizer, and since I have selected only Minikube 2, I would be seeing data from Minikube 2. So I should be seeing my book info app now. So let me filter out some pods over here so that I only see. Yeah, and let me also filter out the namespace because my book info app is deployed in the default namespace. So as you can see, a product page reviews and ratings, details, your basic book info app. That has been deployed. And if I go back to my Minikube, there should be nothing over there because yeah, so there are no pods in my default namespace of Minikube because I didn't deploy it there. So that was the overall use of this context switcher. The two primary applications, as I told, one of which is to manage the cluster on which you want to perform an operation. The other one is to manage the view of the clusters, the data from which you want to see. And that pretty much sums it up. And yeah, that was the demo. If anyone has any questions about what else there is to it, or has any doubts about this thing, you can raise them.
Guys, any feedback or comments?
What about the settings page, like where you see the operator status and all that?
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. I think basically Uzair has already worked on it, and I was going to commit those changes in to show you the settings page. There is a sweet little table that I can show you, but I didn't merge it because half an hour before a demo you shouldn't merge commits because things are working now, and I'm not sure if
my fault.
yeah.
Delaying stuff.
No, yeah, don't worry. So he's also working on some other stuff as well, so it's fine. He has changes made, and yeah, that's a very good question. That settings page will have a table, and I swear to God, I really wanted to show that table because I don't have it right now here. But yeah, there would be a table, and all of the clusters that you see right now, you would be able to configure the operator of each of these clusters individually as the rows of that table. I hope that my descriptive way of saying gave you a visual idea. I think that's good enough for now. Any other questions?
I guess not. All right. Thanks, Ashish. That was a great demo. Moving on, we have Uzair's. He has two topics. So, Uzair, would you like to take it away?
So first item is this NAT's connectivity test was not giving the correct result despite meshing was sending data, and broker was able to send data to the Meshery servers. The connection were all right, but then also in the UI we are seeing that NAT's broker is not connected. So the issue I found out was this. So when broker is connected to when broker is connected to the system, this function returns meshery as a result, as a string, and we compare with it with this as not connected. And here you can see it was comparing with equal to sign, which is kind of bug. So it was hence
good.
The
makes sense.
status was
makes sense. I mean, it's not. We should probably move on.
Yes. So this next item is this settings page that Ashish was mentioning. The settings page is will look like this. So here I currently have only one cluster, so it is only one row. And if you expand this row, you will get the information about the Kubernetes cluster, and here the information about the operator, meshing, and the NATs. This the usual connectivity test and the detail about this. And if you have multiple cluster, and all this cluster will pile up in a row, and the specific context operations you can perform by clicking on this icon. We have two operations, flush meshing and the deploy operator. And here is the system-wide reset button. Ashish, I want to point out one thing. Like you mentioned that if I hit this endpoint, I will get whether the cluster is in cluster or out cluster, but I'm not getting this. here the data is not available, as well as in the /API/Kubernetes/sync.
I think if you hit the sync, the name says in cluster, in -cluster. That's like the name, if I remember correctly. If you hit sync, then not Kubernetes, just remove the Kubernetes part.
Yes.
Yeah, but since here the context name that you see, I think this would have been in cluster if you were in clusters. Are you in clusters?
No.
Yeah, so this context name, I think I'll confirm you after the call, but in the logic, I think that context name would be just in -clusters.
Okay. Any feedback on this settings page?
Well, yeah, we want to make sure that we don't rely on like parsing a string. Like if you are going to designate between in cluster versus out of cluster, it needs to be a first class attribute, don't. Otherwise, just don't designate it. It is something good to designate, and it is something that there is logic to figure out whether Kubernetes, whether Meshery is deployed in or out. And so, yeah, it's helpful to the user to be able to know that. Uzair, this is good. There's a few small items to attend to, margin around the button.
Yes, there's this div is also not aligned. The small items, I will fix those.
Cool.
Another thing that I want to point out is the operator switch button is somewhere hidden. It's something that should be visible to the user. So flush meshing can be done because that is a rarely used operation, but operator status and the way to switch operator on and off should be visible without even clicking more icons like this 3-dot icon. Yeah. I think it's just my opinion.
Yeah, think about that some more, if you would, Abhi. They're both potentially destructive actions, and give it some more thought if you would. I'm not saying, there's an improvement needs to happen. They look kind of awkward hanging out in that, and so one other item is the reset menu. Is that a new tab, or is that just a button?
New tab.
Okay.
But
okay, got it. Good deal. Yeah, great. Yeah, it gets kind of complex. Like this is one of those areas where, like Aladdin or Tapan or anyone else, but just like those that use software like this that need to manage clusters, or that are learning about service meshes, or that are connecting to one or more clusters. Anyone on the call can go assess the intuitiveness of that interface, and if you stumble, or if you stub your toe on something, that's a great moment in time to just kind of write down what you were doing and what you couldn't figure out, and why it took you 15 clicks to do that. And so that's all. Those are all good things to reflect on. Cool. Who's next?
So next up we have Subedy with his SMP dashboard updates.
Yeah, I'll share my. So I've been working on the dashboard. This dashboard basically shows the results of CNCF cluster labs. It basically shows charts and other details of the test runs there. So as of now, all the designs that was made in Figma is completed. We can change pages, and we can filter according to the test that we have. And the 3 pairs layout is also complete. Like first is performance profile, then the results, then after that we go to the chart sections, and after that the test specifications and environment details too are completed. Yeah, and all the linkings are all done.
Nice. So Subedy, this is live data.
Yeah, everything is live, nothing hard coded.
Oh, nice. I don't know that I have the best suggestion, but I will note that it's a lot of yellow on the page.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's the thing to do. One thing that you might want to lean into, like one is we talked about this before, the chevron on the menu. Probably the coloring of that styling needs to change a little bit. The other thing is in the results page where you have environment details and is maybe just lean into these things. And I think you're more or less presenting these two buttons as a tabbed menu, which is great. Like maybe lean into that and like really try to make it a tabbed menu experience where one looks like it's active, the other one is inactive, and then
Actually, what I want to say here is we had done this test specification and environment details into a tabular view because we were showing all the 9-10 graphs at the same point of time in the first iteration, right? So since it is not required and we have only one graph, so I think we can totally show all the details at the single page. Yeah, I mean everything should be in expanded view. People may click on it and to collapse so that they can get a focused view of it. But what I think is the thing should be in expanded view rather than the collapsed view or tabular view. What do you think?
Yeah, noted. Yeah, that seems fair because we are just showing one chart, and yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah. Other than that, I saw like when you go to page 1, when you click on a test result and go to the results of those pages. So yeah, this one. So you are seeing empty page, like the footer and the header is meeting each other. So that should not happen. When the state is loading. So while the operation is in async, while the operation is while you're fetching the result and your result is not yet live, you can just use any loader or something like loading component that tells you that something is being loaded, right? So
can that be done in plain JavaScript and HTML?
Of course,
I'll have to look into it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but this looks great. This is a great idea.
Any other feedback? Okay, thank you.
Lee, any other feedback?
Yeah, this is terrible. This is horrible. I don't know, just no, great. This is such what an accomplishment this is, because to think that under duress you just started iterating. It's like, hey, we need to have a dashboard. For my part, it's like, I don't know what should go there. I don't know. I don't know. Just create a page called dashboard, like put something on there, and then you just started iterating from there. And so that's great. So it's great. It's yeah. I mean, it'll be highly referenced. There's a bunch of almost every tech organization that someone could prattle off on the call. They'll be interested in this. They'll either be participating in this or be interested in it. And consequently, you might be stuck with this for the next year because when they really get into it, like it's going to get gnarly, a little detailed. But yeah, great.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what we're going to do on the side menu. How to use it. That'll actually come with time as people ask more and more questions, want the views in different ways. So cool.
All right, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Subedy, for that. Moving on, we have Ruturaj with AppMesh Adapter with Viper.
Yeah, so I'll not take a lot of time. So just the context is that earlier AppMesh Adapter was using in memory. It was storing its config in memory. Instead of that, I ported it to use Viper, which is basically file-based config, which is what Istio was using. And this actually also solves a bug where the kubeconfig was being reset every time you start up the adapter. So yeah, just a little bug that was fixed, and while I was at it, I ported it to one. But that's it.
Any feedback?
Yeah, just thank you, because we are basically lagging behind on having uniformity across adapters, and these pull requests make me happy because they just mean that we are iteratively getting closer and closer to have more and more uniformity across adapters. And plus this little boy app mesh is, no one gives much attention to it, so thanks for giving it attention, this adapter. So everyone we mostly use Istio and Kuma. It's nice to see these PRs getting merged in those adapters as well.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks, Ruturaj. So moving on, we have Pranav with progress on user profiles. Pranav, will you be sharing your screen?
Yeah. So a little bit of context of what I'm working on is, like, whenever we log into Meshery, we get connected to Meshery through an authorization through a remote provider, and then the remote provider gives our information to Meshery, and then we get logged in. But we don't have a way through which we can see our profile data, or we can edit the data. So currently I'm working on a user profile. Yeah, in terms of UI, it's almost complete. Like, now we can do all the changes which we want in the profile data, and we can generate our tokens from this profile itself. And also we can see the different overview of account, like how many clusters we are using, how many applications we have in our Meshery deployment, or how many designs we are using. If, for example, if I quickly import an application, it's from our Meshery repository only. And if I just import a new application right now, as we can see, now I have 3 applications. So if I do a refresh, and then I can like explore more. That's a incoming feature in which we can explore more about our deployments and other things directly from either from Meshery Cloud, or having a similar interface in Meshery, where we would be having a new extension point right over here as a profile, which I'm working on right now. Like, it's still in progress. And like, I cannot give a demo of it right now. Like, I'm still working on it. So as soon as get completed by the next meeting, then I would be able to show that same interface in a Meshery as well. So, any update? Any feedback?
Just to make sure I understand correctly, if you've used Meshery and if you've signed into the Meshery provider, or signed into, otherwise known as Meshery Cloud, you can just, anybody can go hit that URL and log in, and then see both a summary of things that they've managed, as well as, like, it looks like they can manage their API tokens as well. Okay.
Yeah, they can generate a new token right from here. Let's say demo, and we can use it not only in our GitHub app. We can download it from here, and then not only we can use it in the GitHub actions for a project, so we can also use them in Meshery CTF, like directly. We can do that.
Yeah. Okay. So this is really how. So, like, previous, up until you showing this, and Uzair has been working on this as well. Previously, people would, when they log into Meshery UI, and I guess it's probably still there. If you log into Meshery UI, you can go to your avatar, do a get token. Okay, so you get the token for that current session, and that token will expire after 24 hours or some. It'll expire after some time. And so, is that the same behavior for the tokens that you were just showing?
No, these one are like actual exceptions, because these are infinite tokens. They don't expire. You can use them. That's the reason that we can use them in our GitHub actions, because like they don't expire, and hence we can use them like indefinitely.
So, nice. Okay, got it. Nice. Okay. I'll go try. So yeah, I'll go try it. You can.
All right. Thank you, Pranav. So I don't think Aditya Krishna is on the call. I'll just read out the topic. So there's basically a in-person meetup in Bengaluru that would be talking about the Docker desktop extension of Meshery. He has shared a link over here. I'll share the link in chat. You guys can visit if you're in Bengaluru. Okay, so moving on, Gaurav, could you give us just a
Yeah, sure.
quick run through of this? Yep.
Yep. So currently we are at .6 release candidate 5T for the Meshery, and parallelly we are refactoring the Meshery UI using some of the basic principles, which involves Material UI 5 and Redux as a state management tool. So for that, we have a separate branch named meshery-ui-restructuring. So you all are welcome to participate in the restructuring of Meshery UI, and here's the tracker for the component that we are using in Meshery UI. So it's a call for volunteer for everyone. So you can take any of the component from the current Meshery UI and re-implement using the new set of principles for .7. So I'll share the link in chat. Yep, and for the contribution guidelines, you can have a look at this branch README, and for any issues you encountered, you can just put them in the Meshery UI channel in the Slack. So if you are into front end and love doing JavaScript and React, this one is good for you. So yeah, that was a quick update about what we are planning for Meshery.7. Yep, over to you, Adithya.
Thank you, Gaurav. So moving on, we have Nithish about managing multiple channels in Golang. Nithish, would you like to share your screen?
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, to give a bit of a context, like, so we have a lot of graphical subscriptions that happen. We have our UI that are actually, and we have a lot of graphical subscriptions that are in place. So in order to, so the way these graphical subscriptions work is that, so if you don't know, like we actually use a library called the GQL Gen, and yeah, in UI we actually use Relay for handling as a graphical client. So actually Relay is capable of doing much more, but then like we're just using it as a graphical client because that is our use case. So yeah, and we are in the backend, like we are actually using a library called GQL Gen to accompany that. And yeah, so the way these things work, like in Go, like it is natural for us to use Golang channels to actually make those subscriptions work, or actually stream the data to the UI. So that is what we are doing as well. So yeah, let me just find the file where so that I can actually show something. So like this is how it's actually implemented right now. Okay. So yeah, so as you can see, like this is one of our handler functions which we actually use to get the data from MeshSync. So if you don't know, like there are like there's a component called MeshSync in MeshSync, which is actually its whole responsibility is to stream events or stream the data that, like, let's say for example you created a new pod, or you created something like in your infrastructure, then MeshSync would actually stream that data or stream the change over to Meshery server, where we would actually store that as a cache. So yeah, this is something that's happening, and yeah, MeshSync is the component which does that. So this is a function which actually listens to the events that MeshSync is sending, and then it accumulates it and stores it in our database. So as you can see, we actually have a bunch of channels over here. So yeah, it's not wrong. Like we actually have a lot of. It's not wrong to have. I wouldn't say that like it is not a good practice to have multiple a lot of channels. But then in our case, like something weird happened, and it keeps on happening, which is that let's say like I as a developer, I come and I want to make a functionality work. So I see that like I actually have to create a new channel, and then like I after some time, like I'm not there, and I like if someone else comes in and he wants to implement a different functionality. When he goes over the same thing, things might not actually make sense, and because of that, like yeah, so some weird things start happening, such as one that happened yesterday. Like Ashish was the one who actually figured out that there was something happening in the way that the Golang channels are actually being managed, which caused some issues. But then those are not actually, you wouldn't be able to see that in the UI, but still those are issues. So yeah, so these kind of stuffs are prone to have, yeah, they would happen when you actually don't have a structured way of managing the Golang channels. So yeah, we actually tried to introduce something called broadcaster. It's not something. It is okay, like, but from our experience, we can actually see that like this hasn't helped us in a lot of, yeah, in a lot of ways. So yeah, this so we'll actually have to come up with our own solution to make sure that the handles, the Golang channels that we're using are being managed properly. So when I say like we want to manage a channel, like what I mean is that so right now, for example, if a new developer comes and looks at this, he wouldn't be able to understand like what this particular channel does. And the other thing is that like we have these channels, and then like the names actually don't mean, does not define what it actually is doing. So for example, if we take a operator sync channel, then you might actually, from the name, it suggests that like it is supposed to send, like it is supposed to stream data that are related to the operator's health. But then like it might, I'm not saying it is not doing it, but then it might not actually be doing it, because as I said, like as multiple developers come and they start using this channel, they different for different functionalities, they might actually manipulate the channel to do different things, which yeah, which might cause issues, and they have caused issues to us, a lot of issues. So yeah, there have been multiple attempts to yeah, get rid of these things, and one of which was using a broadcaster. And yeah, as I said, it hasn't actually helped us in a lot of ways. So the ideal thing that we would want to do is to I mean, yeah, we haven't, one thing that we can actually do is that you can actually just refactor the whole code base and make sure that like we actually have channels which actually which do one thing, and like they're only responsible for doing one thing, and they, yeah, they should not be used for doing multiple other things. Like if you want to do different thing, then you actually have to create a new channel. So yeah, so there are it's essentially like whenever you're writing code, you actually have to okay, yeah, let's not go into that. So yeah, yesterday Ashish actually he, like, one of the things that we can do right now is to just right now, if you observe, you can actually take a look into the code base as well. So you can actually see that we are not directly using the channels to stream the data back to the, let's say if you take a particular example, if you take a particular handler, let's say the handler for a particular a subscription, and then you have a handler. So right, what we are doing right now is we are not actually using the single channel to actually stream the data back to the subscription. We are actually getting the data and then like streaming it to a different channel, and then from the channel we are actually streaming it back to the subscription. So that is, yeah, one thing that we can do right away is as me and Ashish were discussing yesterday, which is to remove that and just have a single channel that streams directly back to the graphical subscription. So that is one thing that we can do right away, which would eliminate the problem that we have right now. So, but ideally, like we would have to come up with a better solution for this situation. We have a messaging framework spec, which kind of in a indirectly actually deals with these kind of issues. So I would encourage you guys to look into this spec and yeah, suggest if you have some ideas, then come up with them. Like, yeah, we can actually discuss about it, and maybe if it's good, then we can implement. Or yeah. So it's basically like, yeah, this is the situation that we have, and we are in need of a solution.
Nice. So go jump into the spec. Yeah, there's use of nats within the project, and to me, if you need for distributed systems to talk to one another, like Use of a message bus like Nats is a good way to do. Channels is clearly not getting the job done. We clearly have more complex things than single, unicast messages. So those, so we need something else. So great. That's a good opportunity for anyone else to jump in. We've got about 8 minutes left, a couple more topics. Debopriya, do you want to, if anyone's interested in that or the other upcoming release features, see Nithish or find the roadmap on the Discuss forum. But Debopriya, you're tracking a few items.
Yeah, I'll just quickly give a brief. So recently we have a lot of blog posts published on our site. So those of you who do not know, we maintain our own library of blogs. So very quickly, this one is about a recent podcast that we had with Perfbytes. Lee was a guest there along with Henrik and Mark, and we talked about service meshes and Meshery and how we use them. So this is a brief recap of sorts for that. We have we had She Code Africa as an event which started in April. So this is by the participants. This blog is by the two participants that we had. They talk about, the project. The project was the Discuss leaderboard. They talk about everything. They talk about the challenges they faced, how they finally managed their way through. So this is a blog of about their experience. Similarly, we have a blog by Pranav, who's on the call. He just completed his LFX internship and he talks about his way up the contributor ladder here. And he actually describes everything, not everything, he's worked on a lot of things. Some of the main highlights of what he's worked on, some mistakes that he made. It's just a brief account of his experience here. We have a blog by Adithya. So he was recently involved in the automation of, auto generation of our documentation. So he has talked about everything, like from the initial command reference to the latest one and the evolution it went through. So, and the last one is by Piyush, which is mostly to help reviewers, code reviewers. This will help you a lot. This is a complete guide of how to test Meshery CTL. So looking at these blogs, like just a brief note that blogs can range for a variety of topics. So if you're working on Meshery, for example, and you come up with a new feature, you are most welcome to, write that down as a blog, and we can have this up over here. Any new feature, anything that you've worked on, any experience that you had, anything that you want to talk about, you can just write it down. We have a blog template that we follow. It is in our code base. So you can follow it, you can write a blog and we can have it published here. So yeah, that's all.
So Debopriya, if people want to, it sounds like there's a broad set of topics that people could potentially contribute to. What technical expertise do people have to contribute a post?
So see, like you saw, this is an experience course. This is like, for this, you don't need any technical, knowledge. Like you don't have to write code. You can talk about any piece of information that, like, this is about debugging Envoy proxy. So you don't have to necessarily write code. Whereas this one is about code. This one is about GitHub and everything. So
nice. Okay, good. That's a great answer. I actually asked my question. So that makes sense, like a broad set of talk. But then like the mechanics of contributing an article, can people just put that into a Google Doc, some words into a Google Doc, or do they need to?
Okay, yeah. So what I was saying is, if you go to the layer 5 repo, this is where we store our source collections. Blog is a collection. You go to blog and following the this is the blog template, and following this MDX format, it's very simple. You just have to copy paste this, make a folder. But if you think that this is something like you are only into writing and even this is becoming too much of a trouble for you, then you can, of course, we have a Slack channel called Blog Kitchen. You can join that. And if you think that you cannot, follow this template, share your Google Doc. Like if you think you cannot, convert this into an MDX format, or it's difficult, contributing to the site, then you can share your template and we can create issues so that someone else can take up the job of publishing into like the website. But the process is simple. This is the blog template, source collection blog template. You just have to follow this. But if this is a problem, make use of our Slack channel and get in touch with people who can help you out.
That's awesome. Since we're going through this whole thing, one thing to tie it off is just, if you go to issues and you create a new issue, there are a number of topics that are, and I'm trying to hurry as fast as I can because I know we got to get to Ruturaj. There's a number of topics that are requested or that would be ideal for people to write on. But if you just have another topic that in mind already, you can just propose that here by clicking on the, I guess, that first link that gets started for basically creating a new issue to suggest a new topic. And then the instructions, the contribution instructions for writing that blog post, like Debopriya was saying, are at the bottom of this template. If you scroll down. Yeah, nice. Okay, good. Great. Go write something. Ruturaj, up. You're up.
I don't think so. I think that's Rohit.
Oh, am I getting confused? Okay. Well, that wouldn't be the first time. What am I? Who am I confusing? Rohit.
Hi, is my screen being shared?
Not yet. But maybe it's only a matter of time. There it is.
Yeah.
It's coming.
So the other day, Pranav pointed me to an issue, to this issue. So this issue is, it's quite simple. It's quite straightforward. So there's an extra space after the blog, and then this copy to clipboard part is it's not properly aligned. So I just came up with a simple solution. I actually solved that. So now it's this build is running on my local machine. So I just solved the first part of the copy to clipboard. So it's properly aligned. And as you can see, I also solved the scroll error. So the extra space is not being used. But that only works if there is a small amount of information in the blog, in the card. So if there is a lot of information, it still breaks. So the code still breaks. So the problem here is the space that is being used by this properly aligns if we use the margin, but that's kind of a hack. So I was thinking that we could make this a proper flexbox and or use flexbox and properly align stuff, which needs a complete redesign. So that was what I was thinking. So what ideas do you have to propose? If you have any ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Flexbox makes sense to me. I tried to do a couple of things in there myself and had some trouble. I don't know.
Okay, so if it's a go for Flexbox, can somebody give an access to the Figma file, because I don't have access to Figma file, so that I want to refer that Figma file and redesign stuff.
Sure, message in Slack.
That's it from me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rohit. So we are at time. We are done with our agenda items today. So thank you guys for joining. I'll see you guys next week again. Bye, guys. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.